First of all, we have recognition. So, a couple of things before we get started with our champions of the month. First of all, one of our board members, Natalie Lyle, our chairperson, is joining us remotely. Hello, Natalie. She's a little under the weather, but she is able to join us. Our vice chair, Mr. Fletcher, will be running the meeting tonight. I wanted to welcome Mr. Billy Parker. Billy Parker is the superintendent of Scott County Schools, and I am Billy's mentor, and he is my mentor as well. We're learning from each other. He is here to attend our meeting tonight to see how we do things, and he's going to get to see a lot of fun energy tonight because we have some champions of the month to announce. The first one I want to read is our staff member of the month, our staff champion of the month, I should say. And I'm going to read this. This person was nominated by Megan Barton, and then it's Officer Black, who's in the back of the room. I'm going to read this. I'd like to nominate Officer Black as the FCS Employee Champion of the Month. He has just become part of our team in the last couple of months. He's very eager to jump in and help whenever called. When I asked staff to share reasons why he deserved this award, there were so many. In the short time Officer Black has joined our team, he has built relationships with all our students. His friendly, relaxed personality balanced with a calm, authoritative firmness only when necessary shows students he cares about them. He drops by and makes it a point to touch base with a lot of our students. We have a particular student that struggles with taking things that do not belong to him. I'm going to struggle for 3 years now. And Officer Black has met with him often. In one of his visits, he learned this student had a set of walkie-talkies at home that needed batteries. He made a deal with this student and brought him batteries. Shortly after, this student had the temptation to take some. Instead, he let an adult know that he felt like he was going to steal. That was a major step for this child. As this example shows, there's no doubt that Officer Black is already having a positive impact on students at home. Thanks, and we want to congratulate and award our champion of the month, Officer Black. You gotta come up here. Oh, man. You get to have the championship belt all month, all right? So you are the champion. Sure, appreciate it. Turn around for the recognition with the board members. Yeah. Oh, right here. You got it right in the middle. There you go. This one's blocked right here, not here. All right. That's right. Yeah. I love it. He's going out. Yeah. I think he's going to go look for someone to defend the elephants. Our next recognition is our student champion of the month. And this champion was nominated by students or by teachers. And I want to recognize this person here. I'm going to read this just as it appears before me. Ben Souders is our student champion of the month. Well-rounded. This is the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Ben. He challenges himself inside and outside of the classroom, which is why we think he's a champion through and through. He's passionate about archery. Each week he strives to beat his own personal score. He loves anything STEM and often creates projects himself at home. He's made both the quick recall and FPS teams on our academic team. Soon it was clear he would be a leader for his teammates. He was dedicated to studying and practice in class when he had extra time and at home. As a fourth grader, he was named captain of both teams. That's impressive. At Elkhorn Elementary. He was a fair and encouraging captain, and I cannot wait to see what he does next year. In the classroom, he's always been a champion. He does whatever work is presented to him and more. He asks and always pushes for himself. He's an advocate for his own education. The final reason we think Ben is a champion is his attitude. He always has a smile on his face. He always has a positive outlook on a situation. He brings happiness to the people around him just by being genuinely himself. We personally cannot wait to see where he goes in life. And for that, we are honoring our champion of the month, Ben Souders. Oh, and the teacher, this shows you how much we care about Ben. The teachers, the staff at Elkhorn Elementary, look who all showed up to support him. Mom and Dad, fantastic job. Great job, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very much. Are there any public comments? New business. Donations to Franklin County High School baseball. All right. Thank you all again. All right. Board approval is required for donations at valued at $1,000 or more. Charles C. Mitchell would like to donate $3,000 to the FCHS baseball team for concrete used for the Adam Davis Memorial Bullpen. The recommended motion is to approve the donation as presented. You hear the superintendent's motion. Is there a motion?
Second. Make a motion.
Second. I'll second.
And second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Well, I was going to ask a quick question. Now, I know we get in trouble sometimes when we do something, boys baseball field. Is this something we're gonna have to do over, have we done that once before, and different things?
I haven't been asked specifically about anything for the girls softball field, but we have put in numerous improvements on the girls softball field at Franklin County High School this year. We did new dirt, razor graded, so it's definitely not an inequity at this point, but it is something we'll always consider.
Right, well, I know when we got a big donation one time for a scoreboard, and they put it up, and then we got in trouble with the athletic association we had.
Oh, and we also did just buy a new scoreboard for the softball team.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor of this motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Dan.
I was laughing.
Motion carries. Next item is 22-23 board meeting schedule. The 2022-2023 board meeting schedule is attached for your review and approval. We did talk, we thought about maybe trying to do Tuesdays, but what we instead offered as a recommendation, instead of the first and third Mondays, is doing the second and fourth Mondays, and that's reflected on the schedule. We don't have as many conflicts if we do that. So the recommended motion is to approve the 2022-2023 board meeting schedule as presented.
You heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved. Oh, go ahead, Justin. Give it to Justin.
Give it to Justin. And is there a
I'll
second?
I'll second.
And second by any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go and vote. All in favor of this motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
No, no. Motion carries. They're acting up here, but that's okay. The leaders playing with Mike and then.
It's Natalie, it just didn't,
Like that. All right, next item, business is adult meal price.
Adult meal prices need to be adjusted due to the seamless summer program where all students eat free. The calculator is attached for your review. This is from Wendy Greenwell, our Director of Food and Nutrition. The prices will increase for breakfast to $2.75 and lunch to $4.60 based on the calculations. The recommended motion is to approve the increase to adult meal prices as presented.
You heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
Yes. Why the big jump? And I'm just gonna tell you, have y'all eaten a school lunch? They are not worth $4.60. I can tell you. That's my biggest complaint.
I can explain. The jump is a calculator based on what we're receiving, from the student, for the student meals this year. And they raised it quite a bit because of the program we're under. And we have to, it has to be in match with that. And so I'm not gonna probably raise it, and we'll see what it does before summer. We'll see what summer does. It may go back down, but that would mean they're giving us less money for the kids. And so it has to match what they give us. It's a calculator that the USDA does. I know.
Well, now, is this, when it says adults, is this students?
No, this is just
Okay,
adults.
Okay.
And it's because everybody's free this year. We're on the seamless summer program, so we're getting more money for the kids. So they're all free, and it has to equal out. It's just a thing that the federal government does.
Does anybody know if our volunteers, parent volunteers or whomever, do they have to pay for their lunch? Years ago, they used to,
They do.
that was their perk for coming and
Yeah.
volunteering. They do?
They do pay. I mean, the only way we could not have them pay would be as if the board wanted to subsidize the volunteer lunches. That would be the only way.
That's the federal guidelines.
Yeah. It
Well, we
is.
used to charge volunteers.
Well, to your point, I think it's a good benefit for volunteers if we did, and so I would be very supportive of something like that, if the board wanted to do it. And I will bring it as a recommendation to the next meeting if that's something that you'd like to see.
Maybe it will increase our parent volunteers.
We can do that, correct?
Yes.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of this motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. CLA amended section 7 request.
The section 7 amended request to cover math instruction is attached in addition to the literacy instruction that was previously added. The recommended motion is to approve the Collins Lane Elementary amended section 7 request.
You heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion? Also made. Is there a second? Good. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. The next one is 2022-23 traditional school calendar.
And we have two different, both traditional and non-traditional, and we did put both of them on the agenda for you to consider for approval. I'll read this and then I'll state my recommendation. The traditional calendar was presented to the board at the February 7, 2022 regular meeting. The board discussed the traditional calendar and the non-traditional calendar at the February 22nd, 2022 working meeting, with both calendars presented to the board for vote and approval of one of those calendars. The recommended motion here which I'll get to in just a second, is one that I would support. It's something that we did do a lot of research on, a lot of discussion about between traditional and non-traditional. We do think our biggest reason as administrators for supporting the non-traditional at first was added flexibility for band majors. When we spoke with Kyle about the traditional, and he clarified some things for us that we still will have some flexibility with it and with some built-in days in it, we felt good enough as district administrator to recommend the traditional calendar. You would go back to school August 12th or sometime around there earlier. You would get out at the end of May, you would have a full week at Thanksgiving, a full 2 weeks at Christmas, and we feel confident that you'll have enough flexibility. So that is why I would recommend that you approve the 2022-2023 traditional calendar as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Wait a minute, we're gonna vote on the traditional rather than the non-traditional?
That's the one that,
Golly, I've had so many teachers and parents say that non-traditional is so much better.
and that is something that you all can decide. Really, we'll make either one, but I want y'all to know that, so.
I got input from both sides, that, 50/50, I'd say.
It really is. It's one of those where it's been a pretty split. And it showed in our survey results, the traditional was at 53% and non-traditional was 47%.
Yeah.
So,
And that was from the parents as well, correct?
Most of the parents was traditional, had some school staff saying more non-traditional. But then the teachers that I talked to was like the traditional, so I'm.
the negatives with the non-traditional would be, you have to go 2 days during Thanksgiving week. You have to go 2 days during that first week of Christmas, and you would get out in June as opposed
The
to.
first.
Yes, yes. So those would be the negatives with that. It does provide a little bit more flexibility. With the application for the NTI days and with the built-in days in the traditional calendar, we feel pretty confident that it will allow us to sit, it's what we've always done, so to speak, is the traditional.
So when we vote now, we're voting either for the non-traditional or the traditional?
Yes, so the motion right now is for the traditional, and if you voted against it, it didn't have enough votes to pass, then we would go to the non-traditional.
Nana, do you want to say anything?
I hate the echo. I do think that the traditional schedule is better. I did hear that people really like the 1 week off for Thanksgiving, and also they, more often than not, from the senior parents I heard from, they wanted to have their graduation Memorial Day weekend. So that's why I support the traditional schedule.
Well, another thing that I was gonna say is, you go pushing till June the 1st, and I know when we got into that, we had one of the big snows like we've had back, and because I graduated June the 15th, so that you get pushed way out there, and a lot of these teachers has got to get into school. They start, classes for whatever school.
And those days were built in to cover that.
The non-traditional, you can use hours as opposed to days, and so there is a little bit more flexibility. We have some more days built into the traditional, so even though you have to use days, it's kind of six to 1.5 dozen of.
So we get it hopefully on the 25th with the tradition.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the 22-23 traditional calendar, let it be known by saying aye.
Nays?
Any nays?
There's a no.
And one nay.
Natalie?
Natalie, did you vote?
Yeah, I think she was the tradition.
Yes.
I
Thank you. The motion carries. So I guess we skip down to 22-23 site-based decision-making proposal application.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll actually need to formally table the non-traditional since it is on the agenda. So I would recommend that someone, yeah.
I make a motion to table that one.
Motion has been made to table, is there a second? Second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
What's the purpose of tabling it if we've already decided on the traditional?
It's on there. I don't know from, a Robert's rules perspective, it had to have its.
What we could do is we could, since the board wanted to have both calendars to vote on, we could just read it, vote on it, and if it doesn't pass, it doesn't pass. We could do that.
Sorry. I make a motion to, for the second.
The motion is made, is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, the chair calls the question. All in favor of approval of 22-23 non-traditional calendar, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Sorry.
I vote for it.
One vote for.
Got it.
So we've never had that before, where we had.
Oh, it's fun on my day. Next one is, do we propose
Proposed allocation, yeah. The proposed staffing allocation for 2022-2023 meets statutory and regulatory compliance. The final SPDM allocations will be presented to the board in April for approval. This is a recommended motion to approve the 2022-2023 proposed staffing allocation.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Saying none, the chair calls the question. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Reports to the board.
The first one is our January financial report for 2022. It is presented for your review and approval. The recommended motion is to approve the January 2022 financial report as presented.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there approval for the January
I'll make a
22?
motion.
The motion is made. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, the chair calls the question. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. All opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Superintendent's personnel action.
Personnel actions taken since the last meeting of the board are presented for your information.
Reports from school councils.
Reports from draft minutes from school site-based decision-making councils are presented for your review.
Instructional services update.
We have a wonderful update from our deputy superintendent, Charles Davis.
Hi there. Tonight, we're excited to share the impact survey results, and I've attached every school's, to the board agenda, and then we're gonna go over the district report. We were excited to share with you tonight, and I've given you a paper copy as well, but I've done some scribblings on mine.
Now, one school was excluded from this.
One school was excluded. They did not have 50% of their population to respond, therefore the results could not be reported. In the other smaller schools, we did not have CTC. You had to have more than 10 staff members for them to so that took out our other smaller schools. And they do not have a report. So that's frustrating for them because they also want feedback. But from a district standpoint, we were pleased to see that our results increased during this very trying time. And one of the things that you hear a lot about is this attention to social and emotional learning and how we're worried about our staff members as well as our students. So I think some of the work we've been doing is reflected in some of these results. This survey is given to staff every 2 years. And so the increases that you see are since that last time we administered this survey. So just so you know, in the OVEC region, our district outscored in 6 of 9 areas in the OVEC region. And in the surrounding areas, we outscored Anderson County, Owen County, and Spencer County in all areas. And when I say outscored, I just mean our teachers, our employees responded. And these results are available for the whole state on the Impact Kentucky website of the Working Conditions Survey. But what I wanted to highlight on page, and I don't know, Ms. Rebecca, you may want to pull these up so everyone can see, but on educating all students, this is an area, one of the areas that we dropped. And when I look at the question, how often do adults at your school have important conversations about sensitive issues of diversity, even when they might be uncomfortable? A majority, 38% of our staff responded favorably, which means 62% are uncomfortable. And I think that speaks to what we're hearing with the Senate bill that wants our teachers to be silent about things that make people feel uncomfortable. Everyone's afraid to talk about what they need to talk about. Question Q10, when a sensitive issue of diversity arises in class, how easily can you think of strategies to address the situation? And only 51% responded favorably to that, which tells our team in the instructional support services that we need to do professional development and help them, give them strategies to be able to feel confident in having conversations that might be sensitive topics. Under emotional well-being and belonging, we have some folks who are concerned about our employees, and I think that is something during this pandemic time, they inserted these 4 questions for this impact survey. I'm not sure 4 questions is enough to get a valid result, but you might want to take a look at those results. Under managing student behavior, and it's on page 10 of 21. Sorry, Rebecca, I know I'm flying through it. But Q5, how often does student misconduct disrupt the learning environment at your school? 26% responded favorably, which means we had quite 74% of our teachers feel that sometimes behaviors interrupt the learning environment. That's something for us to think about. But overall, 80% of our staff feel their environment is safe. So that's good. Under professional learning, Q8, overall, how supportive has the school been of your growth as a teacher? 74% of our staff reports favorable results there. Extremely supportive or quite supportive. So that one made me smile. Under resources, in this time when we've had lots of ESSER funding and our staff feels very supportive, it was interesting to me that increased overall by 8, but at your school, how crowded do the learning spaces feel? And most of them said somewhat crowded, quite crowded, or extremely crowded. Now, Mark will mention something in his report about the age of our buildings. We'll talk about that later, but that was an interesting piece of information I pulled out there. Under school climate, and this one was interesting. How optimistic are you that your school will improve in the future? We had 126 respondents that were only somewhat optimistic, slightly optimistic, or not at all optimistic. And that's a scary thing to me. We need to be optimistic that we will improve in the future. But, and I'm not sure if you had time to do that, but you do have access to the school's results. We probably had 3 of the 10 schools who might hope that they would have a higher result than they did. And so those administrators, those teams are working on that so that they can address why we're not feeling optimistic in our schools. So again, we're going to continue to dissect this data. School leadership. I think this was the proudest section for our district and school teams. Question 3, overall, how positive is the influence of the school leaders on the quality of your teaching? And 69% say extremely positive or quite positive. And then how clearly do your school leaders identify their goals for teachers? 70% positive. Those are pretty high results when you have 70% of your staff saying that school leaders help them with their goals. So, Mark, did you have anything to add around these results?
I would just add that, I think they're very encouraging, that, we were above many of our neighbors and much of the state. I think that you hear the commissioner when he goes around talking about the impact survey results, that he was very disappointed statewide with the results being down in nearly every area. So the fact that we have growth in the vast majority of these, I think is a very positive thing. But also, like Charlotte said, it gives us some very narrow focused points of what we can now begin to build goals on over the next 2 years. So.
And in the last section, staff leadership relationships, this is just a note that we were nationally in the 60th percentile. So only 40% of schools in the nation scored more positively than we did. But I was especially proud of our building leaders. How confident are you that your school leaders have the best interests of the school in mind? 80% of our staff responded favorably to that. When you face challenges at work, how supportive are your school leaders? 76% feel they're extremely supportive and quite supportive. And how much do your school leaders care about you as an individual? And 78% feel they're very cared for. So I think, principals, that speaks to the work that you do, and we appreciate that. We know that you're going above and beyond for your staff every day. Again, questions about respect. How respectful are your school leaders towards you? 88% positive, extremely respectful and quite respectful. And when challenges arise in your personal life, how understanding are your school leaders? 87% favorable. That's people work, which is what we need to be about. So wanted to share these with you. You also have the school results you can look at in your own time. Thank you.
Any questions for Sean?
I was looking to see if bullying issues were addressed, but I guess that will kind of come under, from different backgrounds.
What issues?
Bullying.
That's probably under those, do I feel safe at school? It would probably be under managing student behavior. And we, again, 62%, we were only down 1 percentage point from 2 years ago, and I do think it's a sign of the times. Just coming back from being at home and trying to get used to being back in school routine.
Students?
Teachers
I
responding.
wonder, was there a question, I didn't see it, about special education? Do you feel like you have the training you need for behavior issues, or?
That would be under professional development and educating all students. So there are some questions in both sections there that you can look up.
Yeah.
But overall, our district results came up in 7 of the 9 areas in the last 2 years. So that was positive.
So basically, professional development would be directed towards some of these areas do they still call it professional development?
Professional learning.
Okay, excuse me, you all. Professional learning. Okay, but so a lot of these will be addressed.
Yes.
Well, I've heard some surrounding mechanics and they want to add me, so thank you all for what you do. Okay, on behalf of, I speak for the whole board, but thank you all for what you do. We appreciate the things you do and where we're going, and we're gonna be great. Thank you, Sean, for your report. Any other questions before we go to the next one? Superintendent's report.
My report this month is going to be focused on a new piece of data that Charlotte and Kristen have helped put together with input from all of the directors and from Mr. Fields. And we're going to be presenting this to you every month. You have a printed copy of this, I think, in your folder. And this is just a real quick one-pager to look at our monthly data. Now, some of the things on here I can explain to you are more year-long, but they will be adjusted to be monthly as we move forward. We put them slide by slide up here, because I know this page is kind of small to see them. So you can see, yeah, and so if you need, we have some, if you pass these on down here, we have some there. Sorry, Chuck.
Larry, do you need one?
No, I've got this thing.
Okay.
I'm good, I'm good.
So we'll just go through them here, and what you'll be able to then say to any constituents who have questions about our monthly date. We really wanted to, and I commend Charlotte and Kristen for putting this in a really nice format so that we can just very quickly see what's going on. The first one up here is attendance rate. There at the schools, you see what it is at each one of our schools. And that was for this past month of February. Let's go to the next one. This is our number of behavior events for the whole year. This is not in 1 month, thankfully. That would be really, really difficult. This is in every school. And what you see is how they're listed via the categories. Going across the bottom, you'll see some of them are, drugs, tobacco, weapon, very few of those, thankfully. And then the other category, which is the largest one, those are all those other things. Like if you say, if the student is cursing or says something mad or, throws a paper wad, all those different things fall under that category. And so that is our yearly behavioral data. We'll update this now starting next month with monthly behavioral.
Mr. Cobb, does this also include, behavior on the school buses?
Yes,
That's included.
this is all included, yes.
So paper watch, that was a athletic event when I was.
There might be a few of those in there. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Our technology report from Stella and her team. These are the number of Chromebook tickets that have been opened and closed for this year. And then, of course, the help desk tickets down below. So they've been working very hard. They've opened, in some cases, they've closed more than they've opened down below. And help desk, which I don't know how that happened. Yeah, exactly.
Some of them were opened over a year ago and closed them.
Right. But really high percentage of getting those Chromebook tickets done. So really good. This is. Yeah, when we were putting together, is Rody back there talking to you?
We got Mr. Parker here, he's observing. Taking notes.
So transportation, I really, really enjoyed this slide. Thank you, Brad, and your team for sharing this. It shows the number of our bus routes, our midday preschool routes, the average length of a route, which is 90 minutes, which shows, we've got some pretty long routes. The percentage of students who ride the bus daily is at 70%. Our fuel costs for last month, I love this. We spent $23,000 on diesel fuel, and we only spent $3,300 on propane. So again, the more we can look to propane, I think that's a really good answer for us. Brad and your team, amazing job. You didn't cancel any routes last month, and with the shortage of bus drivers and COVID, that is amazing. We did have to modify some routes, so those are listed there. Next slide is school nutrition. Wendy and her team, they've last month served 21,445 breakfast meals, over 40,000 lunches, the after-school snacks at over 2,000, 100% reimbursable meals, 100% passed inspections, and then our student meal participation, was at 68%, with our goal being at 75%.
I was gonna say real quick on that fast thing. If we get Brad, just to see the impact this fuel cost is going up so drastically over this past month. I think the next month, I'd like to see what the difference was, how much more we're paying now.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Finance, what we decided to do for this past month is just give you an update on ESSER funds. And those are the federal funds that we apply for, ESSER 1, DEAR, ESSER 2, the state set aside, and then ESSER 3. And you'll see the numbers that we have allocated versus spent. The blue is the budgeted, and then the green is the spent. So we have pretty much spent up the vast majority of ESSER 1 and 2. ESSER 1 and DEAR. ESSER 2 is getting close. The state set aside, we've pretty much covered. And you see, we're really low on ESSER 3, but that we have a long time in which to spend those funds. And there's a lot of salaries that are in ESSER 3, and so they'll be coming out of that allotment. Next slide is our facilities. I find this also very interesting. Our issue track over the last month, we opened 154 and closed 172. But again, those are some backwards, we know how. And the average age of our school buildings is 33 years. So that means on average, each of our school buildings is 33 years old. We know we have some very new buildings and we have some old buildings that averages out, but we do a really great job taking care of what we have. As I talked to Mr. Parker tonight, when we looked at this data together, and he kind of said, we're probably about the same over in Scott County, and we really tried to do the very best of taking what we have and taking care of it. And I think every school district, frankly, does a pretty good job of this. So, all right. Human resources, we have, and people get they ask all the time, how many subs do you have? And a lot of teachers ask that question because we've had a lot of COVID absences and things like that. We have hired 104 subs, and that's credit to Jennifer and her team. They've done a fantastic job. The sub teacher new hires, just this past month, we hired 9 new, and 7 of those are KSU students majoring in education. So we're super happy about that. And there you'll see in February our absences and fill rate. You want that green line to be pretty close to that blue line. It was not that way in January. We know that when COVID was raging. But this past month we did much better. And those numbers I think will continue to hopefully improve. Is that it? That's it. Any questions?
Thank you for this report.
We'll make sure you get this every month.
Yeah, I'm really looking at that, how much that increase, because, people think what it's just gonna cost them at the gas pumps, but this is gonna be, hit the taxpayers too.
Significant.
Consent agenda.
The consent agenda is presented for your approval. The recommended motion is to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a motion to approve of the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion? Seeing none, chair calls question. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Sir, Vice Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made, is there a second?
Should I say sir?
Not second. Okay. All right, motion. We adjourn. Six 41.